about this. They're lying their asses off. They lied about 9/11. We know that. They lied about the weapons of mass destruction. They've lied about a lot of stuff. They're liars, and we know that. They're not on Mars. They didn't go to Mars. That's all fake. You know what they're doing? They're making all that shit in some movie theater somewhere, some movie, film set, and taking all that money and funding Black Ops, Rand Corporation stuff. That's what they're doing. All that Mars shit's fake. It's all fake. Think about it. We haven't come far enough in robotics that we don't have this clunky fucking arm and just go through the dirt and then throw it there and say, the spectral analysis says it's a high carbon, that could be life. Come on, bro. Make it have some hands and feet and look down and pick up the dirt and look around and take a shovel and dig and walk and get it on a fucking quad on the surface, man. Walk. You know what I mean? They probably got fucking bases up there. But you know what? They can't get past the radiation belt. That's the big secret. That's what makes me think that UFOs are more likely interdimensional or time travelers. That would make sense. Maybe they're time travelers and they want to cause a paradigm shift by interfering with the past. They got to be observers. They're always watching. They're always on the periphery, lurking. These goddamn UFO guys. After 60 fucking years of standing out there watching, I wish they'd make their move. Enough with this watching already. These guys are like warriors. Finally, when there's disclosure and then they land, they're going to be so conditioned to watching. They're going to go on reality shows where, instead of a camera crew following around, an alien follows. He doesn't talk to you or do anything. He just steps back about 10 feet and watches you. If you go to the restaurant, you look, he's at the other table. He's an alien. He paid the money. He's watching. These guys love that shit. They just watch. For them, it's like Earthborn, right? You're gonna take all this trouble. I don't think they're manned. In advanced civilization, why risk body and soul going there when you could send some avatar? We're beyond. Star Trek used to operate with 21st century thought patterns with 23rd century technology. If you could fly around in space like that, you could just make an avatar. You don't have to risk life and limb to go yourself. That's old school. Let's not go do that. You send a hologram. Nice to say. Send some kind of robot. Robots are coming, people. I make a joke about it, talking about the sex robots. One of the reasons why I got like 90,000 fucking views on YouTube when I talk about sex robots. People are very interested in that. And, I've seen some statistics about how many excessive men there are going to be. We don't really have to worry about it because the New World Order is going to take care of that going according to George Guidestone. A lot of the next sex males are going to get wiped out. That's one of the reasons why Russia went into war in World War II, was to get rid of some of the men. They sent them into battle with an empty rifle, and then the other guys got the ammunition. When one of them dies, pick up the rifle. That's life on the farm. This is Rocket reporting live from the Broken Finger Bunker Studios. FEMA Zone number 10. Below the radiation belt. Got one I can see in the sky. It's gray. I don't see any chemtrails. But there have been like a gazillion military helicopters flying all fucking around every day, vibrating the windows, making the animals go upset. Keeping it safe, right?
A man who calls a woman a slut and a whore, he's a piece of shit! He's a piece of fucking shit! You don't contribute to society. You degrade society. You don't contribute. You degrade. You're not a good person. You call a woman a slut, whore, and a whore, you're not a good person. You degrade society. You make society worse than it is. You're not a good person. I don't do fucking motherfucker! I think God forgot about me. I think God forgot about me. God forgot about me. He did. You forgot. You forgot I existed. God forgot I existed. He didn't provide me with anyone. He didn't bring anything new to my life. He didn't give me a new opportunity. He forgot about me. God didn't give me sexy boobies. I bought them. I worked hard for them. I did camp for them. God forgot about me. He didn't bring me anything or anyone. I've never gotten anything. 12 years I've been waiting for some man to love me. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I've had to become dead inside because I can't wait anymore. God doesn't care. I want to die. There is no love in the world for me anymore. Do you have a real job? Do you fucking not understand this? This is not a real job! Do you not understand what this fucking motherfucker just said to me? Do you not understand what this person just said to me? Jake!
Grandpa, tell us the story about the bravest Indian again.
Oh, hell, you boys already heard that story a bunch of times.
I know, Grandpa, but we want to hear it again. Tell us the story about the bravest Indian. Tell us the story about the bravest Indian. Tell us the story about the bravest Indian.
Goddamn kids. You know what? I like telling the story about the bravest Indian. That's probably my best and happiest memory of my life. Boys, that's when I learned about the word bravery. Well, anyhow, I was a young man back then, and the West wasn't won yet. We rode mules mostly, contrary to what people think about horses winning the West. Of course, we'd been working all day. Now, I couldn't stand buffalo. Them goddamn things stunk so bad, and when you started skinning them sons of bitches, the putrid smell that would rise up from there smelled like an old outhouse. I couldn't stand to eat them, much less either. Well, anyhow, that was good money back in those days. I'd make $2 a piece off a big hide. So I got myself out there to the west. Now, there wasn't a lot of people around, and at night it would get real dark. Now, one particular night, it was real dark. There wasn't a star in the sky, no, not a moon, not a star. It was just black, like ash. Well, anyway, it wasn't quite raining, but the mist was coming down, and it was real cold. It was hard to keep that goddamn campfire burning. I had a bunch of wood I had gathered before it got dark underneath an old jacket, but it had a bunch of holes in it, and the wood would get wet. So we had a real unpredictable, crackly fire and real loud. We was cuddling up close to that son of a bitch. I'd come across to 3 or 4 trappers the day before and kind of riled up with them because I wasn't too keen on skinning them goddamn sons of bitches by myself. But anyway, there was a guy named Sullivan there, and he was sitting around a campfire, and the mist was coming down. We were all freezing cold. Anyway, he said that him and them fellers had come across some Injun gal like the day before and had their way with that little heathen devil worshiper. I don't care much about no Injuns, but I don't cotton much to being cruel to no woman folk. But anyhow, these fellows was laughing up a storm. They thought it was real funny how they'd sowed their oats with a little Indian gal and was teasing each other about the fact that they might have them a little half-breed. Well, I felt it was distasteful nonetheless. I figured I'd pick myself up in the morning and get out of here, but that wasn't what was going to happen. As we sat there in the mist, like I said, it wasn't quite raining. There was a mist coming down, and that goddamn fire would barely burn. And I was freezing my ass off. I'd wrapped myself up in a couple of them damn buffalo hides, but after skinning about 300 of them in the last couple of weeks, I just couldn't stand the smell. I don't eat them, you know. Well, anyhow, we was sitting around that fire, and you could see about 50 feet or so. And off in the distance, it was just black as coal. There wasn't a star in the sky. Well, I already told you that. But anyway, out of that darkness, way off in the distance, all of a sudden we saw a light. Now, we was camped next to a small pond of water. It was fetid for the most part, but we was able to drink it because we was real thirsty. All of a sudden, that fire, something, was burning in the background, way off in the distance. All of a sudden, we saw the holy fire of the smiling mighty Jesus was coming in the distance. We heard a thunder sound. Then we heard an animal like a demon blailing in the night. Now, nonetheless, this got everybody real scared as this thing thundered down like an old steam train right into the campfire. It was a full-grown bull elk. His antlers were all wound with grass and sticks that was burning on fire. It lit up the place like 12 noon. That animal rushed in, stepping over the guys and into the fire towards the water in a crazy stampede. Needless to say, a lot of fellows jumped to their feet. Now, I'm an old cuss. It takes me longer to get going, but this day, it saved my life. Because when them dumb young fellers jumped to their feet and were silhouetted around that fire, out of nowhere like 100 stinging hornets, arrows just come flying in from every direction and stabbing into those boys' bodies. An arrow hit him in the face. An arrow hit him in the arm. They grabbed their firearms and started shooting, blazing away. Meanwhile, I just laid there, paralyzed with fear. One man fell, and then another man fell, and the other ones kept blazing away, shooting bullets off in every direction. It was madness. Suddenly the braves, their faces painted like demons with white stripes going diagonal, come jumping out of the darkness, wailing towards them. Jumping faster and higher than the burning elk, that brave was on the first man in a lickety-split flash. Carrying a bow and a quiver full of arrows, he swung an instrument in the hand. It was basically just a stick with a big rock tied on the end. He bashed old Sullivan in the head, his head splitting open like a Halloween pumpkin. I could see the gray shit flying through the air, glistening in the fire. as the elk hit the water, boiling in a hideous, demonic howl. I'll tell you what, I was about to piss my drawers, but I jumped up. I saw that old Sullivan laying on the ground, his head split open. Scared the crap out of me. The gunfire was fast and furious. The air was full of cordite. I could barely see from the mist and the smoke from our barrels. Needless to say, some of them engines went down and some of them white boys went down. Full of arrows like a goddamn porcupine. But I saw some blood and some wounds. I saw that heathen bastard fall holding his gut. Now one of those fellas ran up to him, pulling out his bowie knife and reached his hand into the air to swing it down and stab that devil-worshipping heathen, all painted up like that, bleeding like a stuck pig. Well, out of nowhere, that brave, the one with the spooky diagonal white stripes, he just jumped out of nowhere, flinging his weapon away and reaching around in one motion, pulling his bow, notching an arrow, and shoot, let that son of a bitch fly faster than a rattlesnake going for a goddamn... I don't know what a rattlesnake goes to. Oh, sorry, Kirk. Faster than a rattlesnake for one of them little cotton candy pink puffy little things from the carnival. You know what I'm talking about. Well, anyhow, the bravest Injun I ever saw. He fired arrow after arrow. The men turned their attention in as his compatriots carried their wounded quickly away like little wolves. Meanwhile, that big old Injun standing there with that spooky skull face, firing arrow after arrow. I could see the black obsidian tip glistening in the fire that swung to its target. Man after man fell. People were blazing him, reloading and blazing him. He was getting hit. He got hit in the shoulder, the chest, the groin, the leg. That son of a bitch just stood there, blood flying out all directions, firing arrow after arrow after arrow, until he fell to the ground dead. Now, I gotta tell you, I'd never seen a man that could stand up to that much firepower for that long. He was definitely the bravest Indian I ever saw. Now, years later, I found out that was the husband of that woman. Those boys did their business, too. 5 hours in the morning, as I got my gear to clear out, they saw that engine laying on the ground, and they saw Sullivan there, head all split open like a broken egg. So they took that goddamn rock on the end of a stick and busted that engine's head. They busted that engine's head wider than a tramp's crotch in the middle of spring. Well, I grabbed my bottle, and I went on to proceed to tame the Wild West. God bless the Republican white people.
Very sadly for the country, for a charity, and for the president himself, President Obama has just missed the deadline, and now a charity of his choice will not be receiving $5 million, or, as I stated, potentially much more than $5 million. All the president had to do is give simple documentation, simple paper, a few pages, and a charity would have gotten $5 million or substantially more than $5 million. Whether it was Wounded Warriors, whether it was American Cancer Society, whether it was even the relatives of the victims of Benghazi, which I think would be an appropriate situation, the president decided that he wouldn't be doing it. In fact, just the opposite. He spent millions of dollars in legal fees to keep his records secret. There's a total lack of transparency. Someday, those papers will come out, and people will say, you know what? Donald Trump was right. This is a very, very sad day for the United States of America.
Do it all the time. The laws provide for that.
Wait a minute. So in a school full of 600 children, including 5- and 6-year-olds, you would have teachers walking around armed, carrying the guns on them, where they may possibly fall and allow a 5-year-old to pick it up and possibly misfire it. Is that that's your solution?
People are walking around with guns outside of schools all over our country, and we don't have those kinds of problems. You can always play the what-if game.
But you have enormous problems in this country. You have over 300 million guns. You have 311 million people, many of which are children. You have more than a gun per adult in this country, and you have by far the worst rate of gun murder and gun crime of any of the civilized countries of this world. How can you possibly argue that the
let
answer...
me argue, then.
I'm asking you this question.
How
can you argue that the logical... Please stop laughing.
Because you're saying, what is your argument, and then you won't let me make an argument.
I'm going to ask you the question, but if you could stop
You've
laughing...
You've already posited the question.
You could stop.
Let me answer your question.
I haven't asked you the question.
Repeat it.
My question is this. If you could stop laughing for a moment. It is this. Why do you believe, given that you have 300 million guns in circulation and the worst gun crime rate of any of the civilized countries of the world, that more guns is the answer to less gun murder?
Because the problem occurs, sir, in those areas precisely where we have said no guns. The problem doesn't occur where the guns are allowed freely to be carried, to be used by people. There we have very low murder rates. We have lower murder rates in other parts of the country than...
Hey everybody, this here's Rocket, and on today's edition of the Backyard Survivalist, I'd like to share with you what I have learned through trial and error about how you can feed yourself in a survival situation with a wonderful farm animal. Chickens. Now, you know, if you want to raise yourself some chickens, whether you live in the city or the country, you might want to figure out, are you going to eat those chickens? Because I say in a survival mechanism mode, eat the roosters. And you know, you might want to consider the fact that if you start eating your chickens, you won't have any more later on. And if you eat the last rooster, you could still get eggs out of them, but no more chicks. Now, you don't need a rooster to lay eggs. So if you don't have a lot of room or a lot of experience, and you're just wondering what the hell this is all about this show today, I'm just letting you know. You could effectively keep a chicken in a cage, like a rabbit cage, in your goddamn apartment if you had to. And that little son of a bitch will make you an egg every single day if you get everything right. And what I want to do is share with you some helpful ideas if you decide that you want to take on this critter. First of all, like I said, you don't need a rooster for a chicken to lay eggs. If you want to fertilize, you're going to need a rooster. But other than that, they don't serve much purpose and they make a lot of noise. Now, they will protect your flock from predators. For the purpose
this survival series, we're going to assume you have a limited area and must keep your chicken hidden so that others don't dominate your chicken and take it over and steal your eggs. You don't want to be giving away the eggs. Now you're going to have to feed your chickens. Your chickens can eat eggs. In fact, all the eggshells, crush them up, give them to your chicken. You can keep the chicken in a small cage. You can really restrict the chicken and keep him in a pretty small cage. If he can get out and walk around for a little bit and go back inside, he's probably happy with it, and they'll produce an egg for you every day. Now, if the eggs come out lumpy or strange looking, it's usually because they're sick or they've got some kind of problem or you're not feeding them right. If they start to starve or they don't eat right food, they stop laying eggs. The chicken will only lay eggs for a couple years, although sometimes they lay eggs longer than that. But in a survival situation, the most ideal situation you could have is to have one chicken per person laying an egg every day. You could literally survive. I remember I gave a ride in an ambulance one time, this old dude that was telling me on a long trip how when he was a boy during World War II when everyone was starving, he lived on a raw egg every day. Poke a hole in it and suck it out. So in a survival situation, ideally, if you could have one chicken per person laying an egg, now you might have to go through several chickens to get there. Maybe just a pair of chickens or a solo chicken. One egg can go a long ways on a survival diet if you've already stored rice or are bargaining pit liners for other stuff. Once again, if you eat the chickens, you won't be able to, they're not going to be able to lay eggs. You're going to have to be fearful because anybody that sees a chicken in a survival mechanism, they're going to want to grab that chicken and steal it from you. And predators like coyotes and raccoons can clean you out in one day. You literally have to keep an eye on your chickens all the time and keep them secure so they don't get nabbed. If you're going to free range them, if you got the yard or you live out in some property somewhere, no problem. I suggest you get a dog to keep the coyotes away. Otherwise, you'll just notice a big pile of feathers and they're gone. In a survival situation, you don't want to lose your chicken. If you're in an apartment, instead of having a goddamn rat or what are those weasel goddamn things? Little weasel-looking things. They stink to high heavens. Or like a hamster or some other crap, get a goddamn chicken. Get a hen. They call them puts until they start laying eggs. Ideally, you need a hen so it can lay eggs. And get it used to living in a little goddamn cage like a parrot. Treat it like a parrot. Take care of it. If you can get it to start laying eggs, you're in like Flint. Now look, chickens have to eat. You gotta feed them something, no doubt. You know, and bread and that kind of stuff, they will eat it. So if you can get tortillas or bread or stuff like that to feed them, even yucky stuff, old stuff, they'll eat it, and especially if they're hungry. Some other ideas for food, if there's electricity, put a large-sized bug zapper above their cage. So every time a bug gets zapped, the junk falls down in their cage. They'll eat it, no doubt. In a survival situation, you could feed your emergency egg chicken by putting a sheet up and putting a kerosene lamp in front of it, or an electric lamp in front of it, and attracting as many moths and nighttime insects as you can. Put it so it's like a funnel, and they fall down into a jar with a cotton ball of alcohol, so the bugs die. Take that cotton ball out. There's your food for your chicken. Chickens gotta have calcium if they're laying eggs. So let them eat all of the old eggshells. Gotta let them eat all the old eggshells. You gotta come up with calcium. You can get calcium from any kind of bones, a cat bone, dog bones, chicken bones. You can take 2 bricks and grind the bones into bits and put that in their food. You can get crushed up seashells. Ideally, you'll have some. Ideally, you'll have some chicken food, chicken pellets, chicken scratch, corn on the cob, vegetables. You could let them go around like a yarded area and see what they pecked at, and then later on you could keep them in your cage when you need to be secret about it, and just go out and collect those items that they pecked out earlier. But trust me, your chickens are going to get hungry, or your chicken's going to get hungry, and you don't know, because he's trying to climb out of the cage when he sees you. He wants you to feed him. So, for some other ideas on how to feed your chicken, roll over a log, roll over rocks, and find bugs for him to eat. If you can find your chicken, like 5 or 10 worms, big ones, you get by for the day. Once again, they have to have some calcium. You can come up with stuff. And a lot of junk that you cook. The other day, I fed the chickens what was left of some chicken noodle soup. With the soup, I went out there, it was gone. They ate it all. So, corn on the cob, they love it. They'll pack it to, there are things that you're going to be able to come across as food items in a survival situation where you have to weigh keeping your chicken alive and keeping it producing eggs versus the food content that you're feeding the chicken. Now, at some point, you're going to call it a flush, and you're going to wind up eating the chicken. And there you go. Now you got some more sustenance from the chicken. Maybe that'll get you by another week if you can eat your chicken that was laying eggs. Ideally, though, what you want is you want a chicken in a small cage that's laying eggs. And this thing can be self-fulfilling and supply you with a fresh, wonderful, viable food product every day. And if you don't like eggs, the value of a fresh egg, an organic fresh egg in your hand for trade, for barter, is insane. Tons of value. Now, baby chicks are harder to raise. You gotta keep the temperature constant. But you know what? I don't mess around with it. I just put a nightlight. I take an extension cord, put a nightlight on it, and then I raise the little chicks in a wooden box. That's how I do it. One, you can't see the nightlight. Two, if I was in a survival situation, this is a good way to go. It's just a big wooden plywood box with a lid, a hinged lid. I put the chicks down in there with some shavings, and then I put a nightlight on an extension cord and just droop it down in there. And they huddle around it. It could be freezing outside, but I got the box closed. I mean, they're not getting a ton of air, and it doesn't seem to bother them. And then during the day, I'll open the lid and leave it open. But I watch for predators, birds flying over will grab the chicks and take off with them. It's a long haul to raise a chick to a chicken. I don't know how they fucking sell them for $6 at Safeway, because by the time you raise the chick to a chicken, you got $100 worth of feeding. I'm just joking, but I mean, God, they ate a lot. They really do eat a lot. So bear that in mind if you're going to keep one. Ideally, though, to have a chicken laying an egg in a survival mode, it could be the difference between, like,